to say and stand in front of people to say that I was a small child and I didn't have any sin. But I thank God, God directed me that I had to put things right. I started with my parents, my grandparents, and teachers and children. And then I asked them for forgiveness. People looked at me and told me that I was out of my mind. My viewer, that being out of mind, when I accepted Jesus as my personal Savior, I am still out of my mind until today because of the salvation. So my viewer, Paul wrote a letter to Timothy, his dear son of faith. So the relationship between Paul and Timothy was the faith of God. And if you read 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 3, you will see how the relationship between Paul and Timothy was. And I quote in verse 3, that is chapter 1. I thank God whom I serve, as my forefathers did, with a clear conscience, as night and day, I constantly remember you in my prayer. So Paul was reminding Timothy that he always remember him in his prayers. And my viewer, if I recall that, I recall how I received Jesus as my personal Savior in 1975. And my grand and the people who I got salvation from, they were the old people who preached to me, and then I got this salvation. So in verse 5, chapter 1 here of 2 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 5, you will also see how that relationship between Paul and Timothy is. I have been reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived with your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice. I also persuaded now lives in you also. So my viewer, Paul was writing this letter to Timothy, a believer, somebody who is a born-again Christian. And he got salvation through Paul. And that is why Paul was calling him a dear son of faith. So my viewer, today Paul is talking to you and me. And where the name is written Timothy, put your name there. I put my name there. He's telling me that, Dennis, you need to do your best to present yourself to God as a proved workman who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the truth. Do I handle the truth? Do I have a sincere faith? My viewer, do you handle the truth? Do you have a sincere faith? A faith which somebody can say, who can admire. The way Paul was admiring the faith of Timothy, the faith of the grandmother Lois, the faith of the mother Eunice. This was the type of faith which Jesus needs for us, because he wants us to present ourselves to God as one approved workman. The work of God, we need to do it by faith, not by our flesh. We need to do it by faith. And that is why he's directing this letter to us now. He's telling me that, Dennis,